Welcome back to another episode where we uncover the truth behind the flashy curtain. Today, we're diving into one of our favorite corporate circus acts, that wonderful world of diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. Yes, DEI, the buzzword that CEOs flirt with at every shareholder meeting but drop like a hot potato the moment the cameras shut off. But, let's not be too cynical, or should we? After all, America's largest companies promised us in 2020 that they'd fix centuries of racial inequalities in the workplace. Remember the surge in corporate support after the murder of George Floyd? They vowed to change, promised to increase racial representation, and generously threw a few $100 million into DEI initiatives. Well, it seems the enthusiasm wore off a little too quickly. So, what changed? Let's take ourselves back to 2020. A watershed moment saw millions protesting systemic racial injustice across America. As cities lit up with anger, and some literal fires, corporate giants rushed to align themselves with the moral high ground of the Black Lives Matter movement. Fortune 500 executives started sending out emails, "We are shocked, we are heartbroken, we will do better." Well, data from 2023 shows just how long that "do better" spirit lasted. The share of black employees in America's leading corporations fell to 16.8%, from a high of 17% in 2021, based on an analysis of 84 top U.S. companies. A 0.2% decline doesn't seem like much, but beneath the surface, it's a red flag. The slow climb towards racial equality in corporate boardrooms is teetering and may be unraveling. Beneath these dry percentages lies a troubling reality: progress is stalling. As Lisa Simon, chief economist at workplace data consultancy Revelio Labs put it, the post-George Floyd momentum was a huge moment historically. It only took 1 year of less enthusiasm to take that away again. And less enthusiasm is quite the understatement. What the hell happened? Let's dissect the post-Floyd world and how corporate America's well-worn promises eroded in such record time. We're about to journey through some staggering data backed with razor-sharp analysis. Here's some fresh data for you. Pay attention to the clear pattern emerging. Between 2020 and 2021, 9 out of 10 net new hires in top U.S. corporations were non-white, and almost a quarter of those net new hires were black. Fast forward to 2022 and 2023, and that story flipped. Last year, these same corporations shed 26% of their black workers in layoffs that disproportionately impacted people of color. Only a tiny percentage managed to hang around, struggling to avoid the perpetual axe black professionals so often face in corporate America. And the champions of the rollback? Politicians and conservative campaigners were quick to put a target on DEI initiatives, framing them as part of the evil zeitgeist of woke capitalism. It's become a political punchline, convenient, right? The same corporations that rode the wave of racially charged protests in 2020 now face increasing backlash from quarters that paint diversity as a distraction from core business. A backlash rallying figures like Robert Starbuck, Edward Blum, and Stephen Miller turned DEI into a fight in the courts, this time making headway through legal attacks on collegiate affirmative action programs. Their argument? That racial preferences stand in opposition to meritocracy. How shocking then to find that recently hired black workers are often the first to be shown the door during layoffs. It's almost as if meritocracy means something else entirely, like protecting the status quo. But isn't it curious that when Wall Street began undoing these commitments, white male executives somehow remained safely ensconced at the top? White workers overall secure 71% of executive jobs in these firms. Almost half of those holding top power in America's boardrooms are white men, despite them representing less than a third of the total workforce. So much for diversification breaking its way into the inner sanctum of corporate governance. Corporations like Walmart, Amazon, and even Wall Street mainstays like Goldman Sachs made bold promises: $100 million toward racial justice over at Walmart, millions more to historically black colleges and universities, HBCUs, from Goldman. Great optics, right? Well, by 2023, black workers were being trimmed disproportionately, even as companies ticket items like job cuts as economic necessities. Oh, so sorry about that, I guess diversity only matters when the economy is booming. Even the universal practice of last in, first out sounds neutral, but 2020's surge in black hires meant those same hires were brand new on payrolls when recession risk arrived like an early Grinch in 2022. Naturally, those workers are often the first folks back out the door in white-knuckled cost-cutting seasons. Take Amazon, recently laid off Tanisha Bogan, a black woman in her early 30s, finds herself job hunting after getting cut in June 2023. She astutely observed that many others let go were also people of color, disproportionately folks who joined in recent, DEI-inspired hiring waves. She's not crying racism per se, her story reflects corporate strangulation around an uneasy truth: economic pressures throttle inclusive gains sooner than any other. And don't think black managers were spared either. Companies like McDonald's, no stranger to cultural commentary, saw black representation in managerial positions erode. So, can anyone still dare argue that corporate DEI is more than surface dressing? Corporate America isn't the only entity facing this pushback. Broader shifts have arrived on the judicial front as well. The U.S. Supreme Court's 2023 ruling that dismantled affirmative action in college admissions has proven a creative launching point for critics targeting broader anti-affirmative action measures in the workplace too. You see, programs designed to create equal playing grounds have miraculously become avenues to showcase how equality is inherently the enemy of fairness. Now, facing a Trump administration, stacked in opposition to such dangerous social reforms, companies must confront reality. There's little aid coming to bolster DEI from leadership atop a national divide. Trump's resurgence marks further unraveling of federal actions aimed at fostering diversity, including his promises to roll back regulations governing diversity tracking metrics for federal contractors. Some of this will signal green lights for corporations considering ditching their earlier DEI investments. Ironically, white workers are losing majority jobs overall within diverse S&P 100 workforce metrics. Their share slid to 49.9% from 53% previously. Yet predictably, Asian and white women slid into low-hanging executive openings, while timely retirements likely opened others. Black professionals, by contrast, avoided the upper echelons, held further back during critical top-tier talent shifts. Now, some managers will boast that they remain committed to diversity while their actions tell a very different story. Corporate America learned they can make flashy pronouncements, wield multi-million-dollar social programs as PR assets, and then wind them down quietly when they believe no one's watching anymore. But here's the kicker. While the nation's tight labor market may feed optimism that anyone seeking jobs, regardless of race, will find placements, that optimism is tragically misapplied. Black unemployment jumped to 6% in late 2023, just after touching record low rates earlier in April. Contrast that with general U.S. unemployment, remaining at a 5-decade low of 3.7% into late 2023. Tight labor markets, you say? Perhaps. But for black workers, these easygoing market factors morph into economic uncertainty. As Northwestern University professor Lauren Rivera reiterates, labor squeezes compound discrimination. Whether during hiring freezes, cutthroat downsizing, or selective executive reshuffles, favoritism rears its head like clockwork. We'll stop here for now, dear viewers, while fully recognizing that we're just tapping the iceberg. The abrupt decline of DEI signals more than program scrapping. It hints that formal structures designed to sanitize deep-seated inequalities inside companies were merely band-aids all along. What happens here matters for everyone, not just minority groups. Today it's corporate DEI that's under fire. Tomorrow, other social priorities could follow same fate if capital cultural leaders sheepishly bow to today's political polarization. Remember, only watch what companies do, not what they say.